Okay, Matt, now, welcome. Jesus
Thank you.
Christ, that
We,
was a mind blowing experience. It was terrible. I'm sorry
but
about that.
no, it's all
Normally
good,
everything
man.
goes swimmingly, but I guess today it just didn't want to agree with me. So, welcome, Matt Morin from Narrowcast and Pretty Normal Band, and also Aviator. You are a man of many hats, so I'd like to get right into all three of those things and just learn a little bit more about you, about current day Narrowcast, about how you guys hooked up. So let's start off with a beer and let's start off with a conversation. So, I know you already cracked into Here Kitty Kitty.
Yes.
So I'm actually going to crack into. How about this? We'll crack into something new together.
All right, sounds good.
What do you got? You pick.
All right. How about the Wicked Pulpy?
Oh yeah, I was hoping you picked that.
Yes, let's do it.
All right, man. So this is what we're drinking, ladies and gentlemen. My chroma key is messing with it a little bit, but it's Kettlehead's Wicked Pulpy. It's a double IPA, so we're gonna. Oh, everyone likes that sound. I wonder if that's ASMR. I wonder if I can start tagging ASMR
Yeah,
for
right.
every time we open a can. That'd be pretty nice,
That was
right?
good too.
How's this one?
Yeah, this is great. I love this one. This is, I was skeptical because double IPAs are hit or miss for me, but this one's great.
So Kettlehead is big fans of doing the whole, juice bomb and then dank, different, bitter, hoppy, and then they try to do a bunch of different ideas. So it's really been a privilege working for them.
Yeah.
The guy that owns it, Sam, is an incredible dude, and Nate, one of the brewers, and Matt, they're all great people. The place is extremely warm and welcoming, and hopefully when the pandemic's over, you guys will come up and visit, and we can do a live one right from the brewery.
Awesome, dude.
But yeah, how about let's get into your past bands, Matt. So let's go.
Yeah, no problem. Let's do it.
So what were some of the bands you were in prior to where you are now? So when you started in the local scene that you were in, what did you start out playing? Did you start out playing pop punk, rock, alt rock, metal? What was it?
Yeah, so in like 2009, I started a band called Aviator. And I wanted to be, I grew up in the hardcore scene of the North Shore of Massachusetts. So it was like Haverhill had anchors up. A lot of schoolhouses would throw shows. And from there, I remember going to shows in high school and I was like, I want to do this. I want to be a part of this. So right into college, I met my drummer, Aviv. It was the first class of the first day of college. And we like hit it right off. And we started Aviator together. And that was more like, we thought we wanted to do a straight hardcore band, but we found out that we wanted to go into more of a post-hardcore, melodic hardcore. Like a lot of bands were coming up, like Touche and Defeater,
Mm-hmm.
and we just wanted to. We liked that idea that like Have Heart had done with Screams to the Sun, and Verse had done with Aggression and Defeater, where you're being heavy without having to do straight up like that structure of a breakdown that most like heavier bands, they're waiting to line up for that heavy part. We wanted to be heavy without having to necessarily write heavy parts. So
Okay.
I guess that idea came more from Aviv as a drummer. So we wanted to do that pair of like a drummer and a guitar player, and so we went like that's just how he was a big influence in how I write music. So we tend to write more based on grooves, like a whole vibe of a song and a groove of a song rather than just like part to part to part. So like we try and encompass a whole feel. So that just led us into the whole like if you take heavy music and post rock and all that, those are all our influences. We led into like our own little niche of post hardcore, I would say.
That's pretty awesome. So, were you a fan of the Carrier and the Bonus Army,
Yeah,
Hammerbirds,
like
things like that?
all those guys, we all partied together in college. We would all go to the same house in Brighton, and I hung out like that's where I met Joe and the Transit guys. Aviator would like open for Transit, and we'd play with all these bands, and we all had mutual friends in college, so we all hung out at the same houses at the college party scene, and that's where we all like ended up meeting, and like, you know, it's like you meet those niche friend groups, and it was this house in Brighton. It's like the Carrier, Transit, Aviator. We used to all hang out there, and that was our spot.
That sounds pretty fucking awesome. You had your own little community. The hardcore scene always fascinated me because it was really like it was a community. It was like brothers and sisters that stuck up for each other, and like a big time family feel for the hardcore scene. I was more so in the pop punk metalcore scene, which had, you know, the pop punk scene has its fucking drama, obviously, because it's a bunch of sad boys and girls hanging out and listening to songs about, you know, feelings and breakup. But then the metalcore scene was a little different. You had breakdowns and melodic and then emo stuff thrown in. So, you know,
Right.
it was totally different. Whereas, like, you know, I was a huge fan of the Carrier. I think those guys were absolutely incredible and ahead of their time. I mean, uh, along with the Bonus Army, I mean, Brendan Ball was a phenomenal vocalist. I thought that they were a pretty great band. It's pretty cool that that's sort of how you and Joe Boynton got to know each other, I'm assuming, is because you guys partied together during college, correct? I mean,
Yeah, so we had met each other a few times, just like here and there, because we had, but it wasn't until Joe was on Warped Tour when Listen and Forgive came out, and Joe's really good friend, Mike Silvano, was my really good friend, and I was working one day, and he called me, and he's like, "Oh, yo, I'm hanging out with Joe and the guys, like, you should come out." I was like, "Oh, I wish, dude, but like I gotta work today and stuff." And it was so funny. But my sister came home and she's like, "Yeah, I'd really like to go to Warped Tour." And I was like, "All right, well, screw it, let's just go." So I got out of work and I took my sister, and we met up with Mike, and then Mike introduced me to Joe. And when I met Joe, Joe had realized that we had like bumped into each other at a few parties and stuff, and like had mutual friends in common. But he knew that I was an aviator, and he had started Long Lost, and it was like he was telling me about how him and Vinny, his friend Vinny, had been writing songs acoustically, but they wanted to turn it into a full band. And I was like, well, I got the band, because I knew everything I do musically is with my drummer Aviv. And then I pulled my bass player too from Aviator, so I made the complete band for Long Lost.
oh wow.
And that's kind of, yeah, and that's how that's how it all started with me and Joe. Because what happened was, it wasn't until me and Joe started Long Lost, where like through the whole album process of Long Lost, like Vinny wasn't really feeling it, so he decided to part ways, and we were also into it, so I wanted to finish the record. So we finished it, and we had fun with it, and we treated it as like a one band, one record album type thing, and I just had it fun with what that was. But I just remember that's where me and Joe like really hit it off. Like we found out we had like the same, you know, we had like all the same things in common. So that's mainly like how we hit it off.
That's always nice, is like meeting your almost like clone. You have your differences, of course, but like when you have a lot of things in common and then you're making music together, that just ends up turning out to be like the best fucking music possible, because there's a connection that most people don't have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you probably know too, like there's like different kinds of people that work in bands, and like me and Joe have the same work ethic when it comes to music. Like we treat working on songs the same. We have like the same kind of process. So when you combine a guy that's doing the whole instrumental and a guy that's just focusing on the lyrics and the vocals, it's just like the two parties like make a perfect storm. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah. Because, you know, sometimes when you're in bands, I noticed, you know, I mean, I haven't played music in so long. I just kind of play by myself in my house, you know, acoustic. I adult way too fucking much. Like it's annoying. It
Yes.
gets to the point
No,
where
I'm
it
right there with
impinges
you,
on
dude.
everything I want to do. So
Yep, I'm right there.
with music, I just really appreciate when people really get along in a band, or they have this their own little family that they've created, sort of. And I keep bringing up this factor of family, but it's like a little family because no one's gonna know each other better or have an interconnection as good as you know each other. And then you guys sort of
Yeah,
go through everything together. Especially when you write the music, you might all be going through some shit at the time, and that's gonna reflect in what you're putting out. You know what I mean?
yeah, and that's how me and Joe wanted to treat this project. Like, I always make this because I own a small business in Mass, and I always Joe moves to North Carolina, and I always tell him like, oh, if you move back here in a heartbeat, I'd give you a job. But we treat Narrowcast like that, and it's like I feel like I got to start like a small business with my best friend, and like that's how we treat Narrowcast as like an art project, as like a side
Mm-hmm.
business. That's why we decided to go independent, because like we wanted to act as the manager and the record label, and we got a team of people together instead of like getting a full band together. We decided to get like different members to be a part of a team to make more of a brand rather than just a band.
That's cool. That's cool. I can
Yeah,
appreciate that.
it's like yeah, we wanted to. It's like I wanted to. I always told him that because we were such best friends and we were like brothers. And I was like, I wish we could just have a business together, like a small business. And we were like, why don't we just try to do it with our music? And that's kind of how the approach we took with Narrowcast. It's like at the end of the day, we just want to have fun and it's stress free. But I think that makes the music more natural, and like it just comes out better. I think when you're not trying to like have an expectation on
Or a
it.
deadline. Or you need to do
Yeah.
this, or
Yes.
the record label says that, and you need to, you know what I mean? Like, and you're seeing
Yeah.
that
Like
more
we
and more.
create.
More and more are grabbing the music business and the radio and podcast business. Everyone's grabbing everything by the horns right now because it's like, why do you have to fucking wait to do something? Just go for it. You know what I mean? Go for it because
Right.
no
And
one's gonna hand it to you. And the best part is that you have a best friend that you can trust and you want to do a small business with. And what better way to do it than being creative in music?
yeah, and the last thing I told this other podcast that I did an interview with was I look at the big curveball that everyone's been thrown is COVID,
Yeah.
right? And I think, with like everything has a balance, and where all these big bands, like the big ones that, they have a lot of people on payroll just for their tours, and it's like a real legitimate business where these bands are at this level. They've been just stripped of that industry. So like the only platform have right now is the
Yeah.
internet. And at the same time, you have all these local small bands that have access now to recording gear that's pretty
Mm-hmm.
legitimate and like can produce decent quality. So it's like, and they have the same platform because of COVID. So I think at like this moment right now, we're in this weird funk with music where like the only platform everyone has is the internet. And I think that's like put everyone kind of like an even playing field, like because people are just home waiting for new stuff to come out to listen to.
And I love that because here with Twitch, I mean, the amount of people that are coming on here that are performers. So, like, I'm constantly on here just, searching musicians and things like that. And people you would never
Yeah,
guess are on here. I mean, Mark Hoppus is on here and 300 people are watching him. Where you would think, like, hundreds of thousands of people would be watching him because it's Mark Hoppus. But it's everyone's jumping on these platforms so that they can do something because right now everyone's pretty miserable not being able to be creative and do their outlet, you know what I mean, and music is
yeah,
such
and
an
it's
outlet
it's
for everybody.
yeah, and I think the people that are trying to be like the most responsible are staying home and trying to figure out outlets to still be creative.
Exactly, being safe but still also producing something so that maybe it'll help someone get through a really shitty time that they're having, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like you're trying to work through not being depressed, and at the same time, you want to keep things feeling semi-normal.
Exactly, I 100% understand that. So let's keep going on a deep dive. Who's your local influences? You hung out with a lot of the hardcore scene and everything, but like who are your local influences that you had mentioned you went and seen a show and you were like, I want to do this. So who was that local show you went to where it really sparked your interest?
You want to hear this is the funniest story.
Yes. I
the first show I ever went to, I was a sophomore in high school. My friends took me to the town was Byfield, and it was a schoolhouse, and it was the Carrier, and it was this band called the Sluts, which was Defeater before it was Defeater. Okay. And it was Transit's like second show, and it was their first show with Joe. And I'm not even kidding, like that was my first show, was seeing like Joe's first show.
Jesus Christ, talk about like Enter the Matrix.
Yeah, it's like I've told them that story. It's like very small world. Yeah. Like it's a very North Shore thing too, because like a lot of that, I grew up in the area. Like I grew up in Georgetown, but it's like right next to Salem and Beverly and Haverhill, and it's like that's where all these bands came from.
Oh, Haverhill had such a hardcore scene. I mean, there were shows in Haverhill every other week.
So I played hockey for Haverhill.
Ah, hockey guy.
Yeah, so I grew up playing hockey for Haverhill because Georgetown was too small to have a team, so we joined like a tri-town team. So that's where I found Anchors Up and everything, because I grew up in the hockey scene. Like that's where I came from in elementary school and middle school, is the hockey scene, and everyone that played hockey was into like punk and hardcore. And then eventually, when I put down the hockey stick, I picked up a guitar because I just thought it was going to give me a better chance at like meeting girls, and like
we all did that.
Yeah, right, dude. And it was my mom. My mom too she's not a musician, but she's a true like fan listener. And my mom used to always take me to concerts. And I remember like she took me to an Aerosmith concert, and I saw Joe Perry for the first time, and I was like, Ma, I want that job. And my mom's like, yeah, you and everybody else in the stadium. And I was like, no, Ma, like I'll figure out how he does it. And I guess I found my own little path. But it was like those are my like upbringing. So I told Joe that too. I was like, dude, like my first show was like your first show performing for Transit, and like he handed me a demo, and I was like, it's like such a small world story.
That is so weird. You know what I mean? Like, I remember growing up and watching a band called Fellsway, which Tori from Transit was in. That was one of his original local bands. And then the Bonus Army had Dan Frask. Dan Frask was from Fellsway.
I remember the Bonus Army.
Yep. So, like, it was all full circle. Everyone kind of, as soon as you met someone in the local music scene, it just spread like wildfire. Like, you met someone, and then now you meet someone through that someone. And it's the weirdest feeling in the world. I mean, even when you go to shows today.
Yeah. And at that point, too, dude, I went and saw, I'll never forget in high school when I saw Half Heart and Polar Bear Club with Trapped Under Ice at Anchors Up.
Oh, man.
And I'll never forget. I still remember that show to this day. Like, exactly, like, every song. Like, that was so fun. And Cruel Hand, too. I used to watch Cruel Hand in Haverhill.
That's pretty amazing. How did that... Does that, like, one of those nostalgia things where you're like, oh, man, like, even if you're having a bad day, you can think about it and be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I just remember being in those, like, in art classes in high school and just take art class. Like, you would just get your art stuff done, and then I would just be researching bands on the internet, because that's when MySpace was out with... Jesus Christ, I feel old now.
Don't feel old. MySpace is the golden days. That's when everyone was happy.
Dude, yeah, I know. It's like that's where I found Half Heart and Verse. Like, that's where I found Aggression, was on MySpace, and then I found the album from there. But like, I just was like clicking on, like, I would click on a band, and then I would see all the bands that they were friends with and like attached to, and that's how I started figuring out the scene.
That's pretty awesome. I did the same exact thing. one of my first shows was in Melrose, Massachusetts, at a church in a
Nice.
rectory,
Nice.
and I'll never forget. It was a band called Feeling Brave, and I'm still friends with all those guys till this day. And they had this really funny gimmick. Like they had the most amount of equipment I've ever seen for a local band. They had a fucking keyboardist. They had like a bass amp
Yes.
on each side, of course, a guitar amp on each side, but like one member would jump from fucking amp to amp like he was like a monkey. It was crazy. So that was
That's
like my first
dude.
experience of seeing like a band perform live, but also like the stage presence thing. And then as you get older, you're like, oh, there's a bunch of different gimmicky things that people do that are in bands that, it's not a weird thing. It's just this is what they do when they play live. But I'll never forget that show because it introduced me to a lot of the people that I'm friends with still to this day. And
You're right.
like people that are in the hardcore scene and things like that, like Brendan Ball and things like that. But let me know little bit more about influences. What about famous influences? Who are some of your famous influences? Like, are you gonna sit here and tell me that the Beatles is your biggest influence, or are you gonna tell me like all these? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you're
I
gonna
want to know your
laugh.
real influences, not what people say in a normal interview. Like, if it's eclectic shit, I want to know because I like listening to everything except country. I still can't get into country. I've tried. I've tried so many times.
Yeah, so the big ones were I grew up with the Police.
So good.
I grew up with the Cure.
Oh, so good.
I grew up with my dad was big into the '80s wave, so Talking Heads, Phil Collins, Genesis, and then David Bowie.
Okay.
So I'm really really in a Fleetwood Mac, Pink Floyd, just very the big spacey. In modern day too is like I hate to admit it, but like Coldplay is my big guilty pleasure. I think
Oh, there's
like
nothing wrong with that. That's a
yeah, no,
good
they
guilty
just write
pleasure
that
because they're all
the
really
big
talented.
those big spacey landscapes, and I have all their records on vinyl, and it's like they just the vocals with the guitar and like all that stuff is so inspiring to me. So yeah, those are my big ones. I would say like especially like David Bowie as a person in general. Um,
Bowie really should get a lot more credit than he does for being not just a
yeah, he was just
musician.
someone I always wished was like my uncle or my dad.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things where he was such a pop culture icon, but he made the abnormal at the time normal. And it was so nice because it kind of pushed forward this progressive idea of like, you can be fucking weird. Like, there's nothing wrong with being weird. There's nothing wrong with being
Well, I just
yourself.
yeah. I feel like if more dads in the '90s were like him, we'd have less
Oh,
problems
yeah,
today.
because they'd be like, what are you upset about? Let's talk about it instead of like, fucking stuff it down. Don't
Right?
cry.
Yeah. It's like yeah, people like David like and then yeah, like for me the with the Police, it was Andy Summers. Like I literally researched this guy. Like I researched his gear, his techniques, his I watched all the documentaries on him. Like that guy just was like he did everything I wished I could have done. Like they would say like if you could go back in time and like rewrite something that someone
Yeah,
did, it would definitely be like some of those Police riffs. That I get a lot of my riff ideas from the Police, like how Andy Summers plays guitar. I basically like broke down how he plays and writes as a guitarist.
that's really fucking cool. So that you would say that's your biggest influence of all time.
Yeah, that's a lot of where I got my Aviator riffs. It's all from the Police.
That's really
Like
fucking cool.
a lot of the chords I play, a lot of the like progressions I use, it all comes really from the Police. It's just I thought my whole idea was like I wanted to take his riffs and his ideas and make them in a heavy like a modern post hardcore element. And I just thought it was like why don't I just throw a distortion on top of the chorus?
That's really, really fucking cool. To hear that Aviator, you got the ideas from the Police. I mean, listening to it, you'd be like, oh, well,
No,
yeah.
yeah, people think it comes from like more of like post punk. I have in, but it's like no, like at the end of the day, all of the Aviator stuff, it was a combination of. It was like I used to say Aviator was like at the drive-in because it was very much as a band, everyone contributed their part. So as a guitarist, I contributed literally 50% of the guitar, and then my other guitar player, his name was Mike. He contributed exactly 50%, and Mike used to play like heavier, like darker stuff, like that band Gates
Mhm.
and post rock and like Diminished and like Converge. Like he loved Converge and like, but then you took his stuff and then you combined it with me, where I loved At the Drive-In and The Police and Refused and like all these bands that were basically like post hardcore on a mainstream level. And like that's where Aviator got its sound, is like you took like a mainstream post hardcore and you meshed it with like the darkest hardcore you could think of, and that's kind of how we like approach the guitars.
That's a really cool mishmash. That,
That was our approach, and it just happened to work out. It's like I'd always be writing like these wavy guitar riffs, and then Mike would always be writing these super dark like progressions and diminished chords, and then when you put it together in the same key, it would just all work out. It was just weird. I don't know how to explain it.
that just sounds really cool. Like you guys had all these puzzle pieces that fit together perfectly.
Yeah, and that's why like everyone would get. We were so stubborn, so like no Aviator song could be written without all five of us in the room,
Oh, that's fucking
because
great.
someone would get pissed, and so all the songs that were written without like one or two members missing never made it to the cut.
That's great because then, I mean, I know that some people sometimes will feel left out in an album when you're recording. Like, let's say you record everything, everything sounds good, but then all of a sudden the bassist isn't there one day and the guitarist is like, I'd really like to hear this riff here, and then they record it, and then the bassist is upset or something like that. Whereas in this case, it was everyone fucking knew it only works if all the
Yeah,
pieces go together.
and you know what's funny too, dude, is at the end of the day, when it came to recording for Aviator, we would use each other as tools, as if like literally like a hammer and nails type tools. Like if Mike could play the riff better than me, I'd have him record it. And if I could play a riff better than someone else, I'd record it. And then if the bass player could play one of our guitar riffs better in time because we wanted to speed it up, we'd literally have our bass player record the guitar riff.
Oh, I respect that so much.
So it's like we literally just take whoever could play that part the best, recorded it for the album.
That's brilliant. The least amount of takes,
And
the
it,
least amount of stress, the less chances for everyone to get
it was
upset.
just, yeah,
You know?
we wanted everyone to drop their egos, because at the end of the day, everyone wanted the album to be the best. It's not about you being the best, it's about the album being the best. So we drop all our egos and try and have the best person for that situation tackle that riff or that part.
I fucking 100% dig that. That's really cool. That keeps the least amount of stress on everybody. You know what I mean? Because you know you all love each other.
Yeah, that's it, and that's where bands get the most, is with egos, dude. I think.
And that's the sad part, because everyone starts out as friends. Let's play some music
Yeah.
together, and then all of a sudden you've opened a fucking can of worms. It's like when people start dating and everything's cool, and then they move in together, and they're like, they leave the fucking toilet seat up, they flick their
Yeah, like
underwear
true
into the
colors
hamper with their
stuff.
toes. Like, who is this person?
Right. Right, dude. Exactly. So yeah, that's how I really respected how Aviator operated, because it was truly five guys that had to contribute their 100. It was five guys contributing 100%. So rather than contributing 25% each, you got 500%. You know what
That's
I mean?
fucking awesome. That's 10 times better. You know?
Yeah, and that's we all truly loved it, because at the end of the day, heavy music, like we all knew, heavy music you can only go so far. So it's truly all about love for it.
It's funny too because it seems like it does come in waves. Like heavy music is going through this thing right now I mean, I could be wrong, but I have noticed a lot more.
Do you feel like it's dead right
I
now?
do.
Me
Okay,
too.
all right. So I was gonna say that, but like a lot of people don't agree with me. But and I'm
No,
not saying
I
that.
feel like
To
I feel like indie music's been like really picking up
Yeah,
recently.
yeah, and that folk and indie. I feel like that's what's
Yeah.
really bumping right now. It's really not
Oh
rock or progressive or
yeah.
post-hardcore. No one gives a shit about that right now. It's weird. And I think maybe heavy music might be like everyone's aggravated right now, so they don't want to get all hyped up from an album that's going to make them maybe more aggravated. I don't know. That's just an assumption.
The other thing too is I think people prefer at home to listen to softer music, whereas they prefer live to see heavier music. And because you can't see any music live right now, it's kind of dead.
Okay. I can agree with that.
That's just my perspective. I've thought about this a little bit
Mhm.
too,
No, no, no. I like
and it's
hearing
just like
people's perspectives on like what's going on, and cuz I did notice that, heavy music has taken a dive. Like,
yeah, like I feel like this is prime. Like when just because we're all stuck inside, like bands that are like indie and electronic will thrive right now, whereas like heavier bands, it's all about seeing the live performance. Because when you see a live heavy band, you're like, oh my god, you like literally feel
mhm.
it in the venue. And then that's what sucked me in when I was a kid too. Is like you go see a heavy band, they literally make you feel the room, and then you'd be like, okay, now I need to go home and check this out and see if the live record, like if the recording matches how I felt at the show. And then if it did, then I'd be like, all right, now I'm totally sucked in.
That's fucking awesome. So I like how you get excited about it, and I can tell still that you get excited about making music.
Yeah, that's why I'm Narrowcast and Pretty Normal have been my new bands, and they're both different approaches, but it's like I'm just Aviator got to the point where it felt like it had expectations, and life was like I was getting older, and my things in life that I wanted started to
Hmm.
change, and everyone seemed to like be, we were all arguing so much to fight for a song, and I just part of me doesn't agree with that mentality. Like sometimes I think you should just write music for fun because it's
Right.
fun. And so I decided to walk after we finished our sophomore album with No Sleep. I decided to walk away from it all and try a different approach. And I was kind of the one that pulled the trigger on that, and all the other guys kind of followed because we're all getting older and we all were deciding, we were settling down. Like half of us are married now, and we're buying houses, and that stuff takes money to do. And
Exactly.
so we got kind of caught up in life because we're all getting older, and but at the same time, like I wasn't gonna do No Sleep. Had done so much for me, like I didn't want to do them dirty
Right.
either. So I was like, the least I could do is finish out the contract, and then yeah, after that's done, like I can start trying to do my life after that. But what happened was, after some time, I started to miss it,
Of
and
course, man. Of course. It's part
yeah,
of you.
and I moved out from my house and I started my life. And what I did was I built, I moved in after I moved out for a year, and then after a year after that, I moved in with my girlfriend, who's now my wife, and we got a 2 bedroom, and I turned the second bedroom into a studio, and I started writing a lot, and that's when Joe got married, and I started showing Joe. I'd written like 25 songs with Aviv,
Wow.
and I was just keep going, and I was just writing music that I was writing music like the stuff that I wanted to listen to. Like I was finally tapped, like, because I had been in a band for like the last 10 years. That like when you're in a band for a certain genre, like you got to stick in that realm, and you can like break away a little bit, but like you can't like do a 180 or people are gonna be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
um, so this was the first time where I was like, I'm gonna start writing music that like I would have grown up in my house listening to, and like if I heard this on the radio, I'd want to go see this live. And so I started messing with all those bands, like the big influences we were talking about. I started trying to duplicate my own version of that. And so it's like a shoegazy, like I love Slowdive, I love Daughter, I love pretty much anything the woman from Daughter does. and and I started playing with this whole idea of soundscapes and indie music. And it's like I basically wanted to take the experience I had with Joe with Long Lost and do my own version. Like it's like, what if I could take my aspects of Aviator that were a little bit heavier and like raw and just a real guitar player and drum going at it hard with, but in an indie or shoegaze way. And that's like I asked Joe if he wanted to go down that road, and that was the whole how Narrowcast started.
So touch a little more on that. So when Narrowcast started, I don't know the story behind Transit and them ending. I don't dig into things like that. I'd rather just, if it broke up because they moved on and they want to do something different, cool. If it was bad blood, who cares? I don't, you know what I mean? I never care about stuff like that, but I always thought Joe Boynton had the most unique, captivating
Vocal.
fucking voice. And
Yeah.
it was so nice
Yeah.
to listen to, and it was so funny to see that he was the singer because I worked with him. He was a camp counselor. We worked at a YMCA together, so it's kind of funny, you know what I mean? So
It's
it's like you
amazing.
never think that the person you're working with as a camp counselor and we're helping mold young minds and joke around with them and keep them safe at a camp counselor, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden he's
Yeah.
on tour with like fucking Taking Back Sunday. You know what I mean? Like it's such a small world. People don't realize who you might come into contact with. And when I heard his singing voice, I was like, this fits perfectly with the music he's doing, but I feel like it can fit perfectly with anywhere he goes. And then as soon as Narrowcast was announced, I got extremely excited because I enjoyed Long
Nice.
Lost. And then I was like, well, what happened? I didn't, there's nothing else coming. I always get, I'll admit it, I get real bummed out when I see people start new projects and then they stop or they come out with one album, or I always want to know what the
Right.
next fucking thing's gonna be. I get so anxious about it and I actually think about it. Like
Yeah.
one of my favorite bands of all time is the Receiving End of Sirens. And
Yeah.
they only have two albums and COVID screwed everything up. They were supposed to have a reunion show in May last year and I was all excited about it, and the pandemic ruined everything, and now who knows, they could have introduced new songs because out of nowhere they were coming back, and it's one of those things. But with like Narrowcast, I got extremely excited because I was like, I really enjoyed Transit. I have listened to Aviator. I have listened to Pretty Normal. I do really enjoy Pretty Normal, just to let you know. That was this past week I started listening and realized that it's totally different from Narrowcast. So you are
Yeah.
very well versed in what you like and what you write, and I can see a different mind working when you're writing these different styles of music, if you will.
Yeah. And it's like with Narrowcast, I took that idea I was telling you about Aviator and taking the best people to create a vision. So with Narrowcast, I act as the total producer for the instrumentals. Like whether I write the whole thing, like drums, bass, guitar, or it just depends on the song I'm going for. So what I do is I treat Narrowcast one song at a time, and each song I treat as a painting. So
Okay.
if I won't start another song until one's done. And I took this idea from when Blink did self-titled,
Okay.
and that's how they recorded self-titled. Is they truly wrote one song completely, beginning to end, and they didn't care if it took 1 month, 3 months. They just like they made it like what it is, a complete thought before they moved on to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I wanted to treat Narrowcast. So, but what I did was I leveled up, and it's like if I thought a guitar was needed that I couldn't do because I couldn't come from that perspective, I'd reach out to a friend. So with like this song that we put out, the ones that fell through, the acoustic me and my wife wrote in our house together, and it was, she had the verse acoustic and we wrote out the whole song together. Just it was just acoustic, and me and her completely did it together, and I would just guide her. I'm like, I don't know, I think you should go to this chord and this chord. So I just,
so your wife is also a musician.
yeah, so that's how I met my wife. Actually,
Sorry to sidetrack you.
Yeah, no, that's how I met my wife. My wife and I used to play shows together, and we played like 3 shows together. And I remember I was running late from work, so I couldn't get my amp, and I ran to Boston, and I had to borrow her amp. So I asked if I could use it, and that's how we like officially met. And Aviator and her band would play together a bunch. And I finally had the liquid courage one day to like ask her on a date, and that's it. The rest is history from there. But yeah, me and my wife write a lot of like we do everything together. So like
that's fucking rad.
Yeah. So the acoustic is my wife in the song of the first song.
That's really cool to know.
Yeah, because she wrote it, so I had her record it, and she came to me with that whole intro, the whole, first verse, and then I took it from there with the chorus, and then I produced the whole structure of the song. But it's like I made her play on track the whole acoustic.
That's really cool. The ability to be able to write these songs, and then also get input and help, and you know what I mean, and your wife's a musician, so it's kind of like really cool.
Because I always think it's like if you're doing everything yourself, it's going to be, you're going to trap yourself in a certain window. And if you have other people influence it, it's going to be something that you couldn't duplicate. And that's what I'm always trying to do, is create something I couldn't duplicate.
And I appreciate that, because that goes back to you saying that if we didn't all write those pieces of the music, then we didn't use it. It got scrapped.
Right, and then the cool part is, so my wife did that acoustic, right? So I needed the electric, and I reached out to my good friend Rob, who I used to play with shows with, and he lives in Denver, and he used to play with Aviator when we'd play in Denver. And I sent the song to Rob, and Rob wrote the electric and the synth, and he sent back the synth and the electric. And I was like, all right, this is dope. And then I wrote the second electric off of his electric, but I kept both electrics. So it's literally Rob's electric was recorded in Denver. My wife recorded her acoustic, and then I recorded my electric.
That's really fucking cool. So you got like 3 different parts, 3 different people, and it all coincides and meshes perfectly.
And then I had Aviv do the drums. Aviv does all the drums for everything I ever do. And then my other good friend Joe Campbell did bass, and he's a local from Salem. And that's how I put the band together. And then we went over to God City because we're friends with Zach Weeks. We used to play shows all the time with Cersei.
Okay.
And Zach works at God City now, so we went over to God City and tracked it, and then we did the guitars and stuff with Aviv, because me and Aviv have always self-recorded all our stuff.
So do you and Aviv always put everything together? Do you put it together separately? Do you live near each other so it's easier to like write together?
Yeah, so me and Aviv literally live 3 minutes away from each other.
Fucking sweet.
So Aviv lives right over the bridge in Salem, Massachusetts, and I live in Beverly, Massachusetts, and we're literally a 3-minute drive apart. We're 1 train stop apart.
Oh, that's perfect.
And Aviv lives across the street from God City.
Wow, talk about convenience.
Yeah, it's just where we grew up, man. We literally live in the heart of it all, and so it's just a means of a phone call here and there.
That's pretty awesome, because if you have an idea and you're both free, you can be like, you want to meet up?
Yep, that's what we do. And Aviv's got a studio space in Peabody, so that's where we demo everything.
Oh, dude, that's perfect. Perfect.
Yeah, and if the demos are good enough, we'll just upload it into the sessions. But I usually demo everything in my own house, and I'll do like electronic drums, and if the drums are good enough, like the samples are good enough, we'll hybrid them and stuff. But it's usually like we'll take my whole demo session and we'll upload it into whatever studio we go to, and then we'll just start replacing the tracks with that. Like we'll always try and duplicate it better, and then we'll just use whatever's the best.
That's pretty awesome. So you're a huge critic of yourself and of your music.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm the biggest critic of myself, dude.
Is it one of those things that it's like a blessing and a curse?
Yeah, it's yes, exactly. It's like it's like I stress myself out. My dad made that joke. He's like you should close your eyes for 5 minutes and draw like your worst critic. And I was like, I drew a picture of myself with a flamethrower on myself. I put the pressure on myself a little too much sometimes, but at the same time, I think I do my best work when I'm under pressure.
I think that some people thrive under pressure, and then you have artists that can't have pressure, and it takes them forever to come out with something, and then you get disappointed because they thought too much on it. Whereas, like, I feel like you don't overthink what you're putting together.
No, it's like
You have an idea
usually,
and you go with it, and then you see where it goes from there.
yeah, it's a feeling, dude. So like usually 20% into a song, I'll get a feeling, and at this point, because we've been doing it for 5 years, I'll know pretty much 20% into the production if it's gonna make it or not.
Really?
Yeah, I can. It's just a feeling. I go off of my gut a lot, and it's a feeling too with Joe. Like the songs that like all of a sudden he can just bang out the vocals in one session, and it's like pretty much there, and I just have to tweak it, and then all of a sudden I've done the instrumental in like 1 or 2 sessions. It's like you usually get a feeling. And then there's been songs where I keep trying and trying and trying to like remix it and restructure it and put a capo on it, and I keep doing everything with this idea to make it fit Joe's vocals. And then at that point, if it's like we're like 4 or 5 tries into it, I'm like, I'm not wasting my time with it, so I scrap it.
That's a really good idea, because that would be a fucking nightmare to get halfway or 75% into a song and then scrap it. Because now you
Yeah,
have to make up for lost time, but at the same time, maybe you have some ideas from that song that would have fit better in
well,
another one.
that's like I'm trying to do that too. Like Aviator fought so hard for every song, and with this band, the best songs have been just naturally like I always write double what I want to put out. So if I want to put out 10 songs, I'll write 20 at least. And you can tell, and that's something that came from Aviv, because Aviv's always been that way because he's a drummer and he can just crank drums
Mm-hmm.
out. And I've always told him, like, as a guitar player, dude, it's hard to just crank out like all these different riffs and ideas. But he's pushed me, and it's been worth it because you need to write double, and then you scrap half of it, and then you really can be like, all right, well, this half is really the best of it.
So do you feel that, you know, you, Aviv, Joe, you're kind of sort of interconnected? Like you're each other's
Yeah,
sort
so
of puzzle piece that go together, and then you sort of
yeah.
always on the same wavelength, and if you're not, you just kind of sort of talk it out and where, oh, let's scrap that, let's find something else.
Yeah, it's like I always write my guitar to it. So I'll always have a drum beat in my head, and then I'll program that drum beat, and I'll do it. I always use Smashing Pumpkins as a reference, but that song 1979, I write a lot of stuff based off that song. It's like I like to take that 4-bar drum beat loop and just loop it, and then I'll write my whole guitar and everything, bass and drums, or it's like synth and all that. I'll fill in all the rest based on that 4-bar loop, and then what I'll do is I'll take that drum beat to Aviv, and I'll ask him to do his like flavor on it, and then he'll scrap or mute that drum beat, and then he'll just replace it with his whole natural feel of it.
That's really fucking cool, because I would have never pictured. I've only had one beer. Pictured the fact that you use the Police and Smashing Pumpkins as references for what writing. Like,
Yeah,
this is
it's
why I
like that
started
whole
this,
idea.
because I never get people's actual influences or what they're doing or things like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's for me that one song just it really stuck to me. It's like, if you can have a four bar loop drum beat play for 3.5 to 4 minutes, and you're still listening to the song, like you did something
Mm-hmm.
right. And that song 1979 by Smashing Pumpkins did it for me because it's like it's very indie style, clean guitars, and it's all about the indie guitars with the vocals, and the drums just stay the same groove the whole song.
That's pretty cool. That's a really uh, structured way of writing a song by using a simple technique. You know?
Yeah, that's how I like. And Death Cab gave me a lot of influence on that too, because it's always like, for me, the challenge is you want to write the simplest thing, but it's so complex that it can take a listener's attention for 4 minutes. And that's how you've really accomplished something, because you're not trying to wow somebody. It's you're tapping into how they feel about something.
Okay, I can 100% agree with that.
And I think Death Cab does that a lot, and Coldplay does that a lot. It's like when you're grooving on something for 3.5 to 4 minutes and it hasn't really changed, but you feel something about it. It's like that's the challenge I think I like to tackle when I write songs.
That's pretty cool, man. I can appreciate the strategy. Um, are you done with that one? Do you want to open another one?
Yeah, let's do another one.
Okay. What do you want to pick?
I want to try this Quest.
Oh, yeah. That's a flagship, man.
Yeah, I like this label too. It looks cool.
So, this is actually a funny story. I can actually tell you a funny story about this one. So, when I moved to New Hampshire like 7 years ago, I met a bunch of people up here that, oh yeah, ASMR can open. Um,
Nice.
I met a bunch of people that homebrewed, so that's how I got into brewing, was homebrewing, and built my
No.
own rig, things like that. But this dude used to come into the homebrewing shop with these insane fucking homebrewed beers, and I'm like, this isn't your beer. You probably got this growler filled at Treehouse or something like that. You know what I mean? And he always used to be like, no, man, this is my beer. Like, stop being an asshole. People
That's
make good beer at
amazing.
home. So, lo and behold, it ended up being Sam from Kettlehead that used to come in all the time.
No
Yeah.
way.
So he used to come in with these different beers all the time, and we were like, "You made this in your house?" So this is one of the original recipe beers that he used to make on his homebrew rig, but just on a massive scale.
Bro, this is really good.
Cheers, buddy.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
always glad
This
to
is
share
great.
beer with people. Share beer with people. Jesus Christ, sheer. Um, but so a little bit more about you. What are some favorite shows and venues you've gotten to play? Like, tell me some horror stories and tell me some uplifting stories. Because I mean, I've gotten some horror stories from some bands, and they're all things we went through as a local scene band, but then sometimes on a massive scale, and you're like, Jesus Christ, how did that happen? I mean, the last one that I did, one of the members of the band, Rival Colors Valen, was telling us how the guy that they stayed with, who let them crash at their place, was like a fucking serial killer. So I don't know if anyone's
Oh
gonna
my
top
gosh.
that. But
Oh my
you know,
gosh.
tell me the best and worst of what you've played. Biggest accomplishments, things you're really proud of.
Yeah, so for Aviator, the peak of everything for us was we did a tour in Europe on the last record, right before it came
Hmm.
out, and we did a month and a half, and that was the best experience of my life when it came to music. It was such a culture shock between American booking shows and how they do it out in
So
Europe.
how does that go?
So Europe, they tend to book just one or two bands, and that's it per show. And it's like you have one local band open and one headliner, and that's it.
Is that because our attention spans are dog shit and maybe theirs are better?
Well, it's like here, even since I was in high school, it was like you got four bands playing a half-hour
Hmm.
slot. And in Europe, it's like the first band's got a half hour, 35 minutes, and then the second band's got an hour, and that's it.
Wow.
and like you choose to do what you want with that hour. But the it was just really crazy. It was like each show was like one or two locals opened, and then it was us. And the other crazy part was the turnout. Europeans like really liked hardcore, and they had been waiting for us to come out there. Like some kids they drove 3 or 4 hours out just to see us, and said that they had been waiting 3 or 4 years to see us.
Holy shit! What's that feel like?
That was like
weird?
Yeah, it was like that was a real trip for me. It was like one kid wanted to hug all of us because he said like his parents had gone through a divorce and he had been listening to our record to get through it, walking to school every day.
Wow.
And we all gave him a hug. He was just so happy. He said he drove 3 hours out to see us in Prague.
Dude. So you literally helped someone out across the other side of the world. That's a cool fucking
like
feeling.
Yeah, and it used to be fun to have my mom have to go to UPS to send Aviator shirts to like Austria and stuff like that. I remember that. That was like a cool mom moment with her. I was like, "Ma, I need you to send these shirts across the world," and she was like, "Get out of here," because she didn't grow up with the internet, so she couldn't believe that people across the world wanted to buy T-shirts from my band and stuff because she saw me write all these songs in our garage.
That's fucking cool. So like that's proud mom moment. She didn't believe you, and then when it came to fruition, she's like, "What?"
Just the same thing with Long Lost too. I'll never forget when Long Lost came out and Newbury Comics was playing it on the intercom, and she like went in to go see if it was there, and she heard it over the intercom in the mall. And she is like, "Oh yeah." So my mom's like a big impact for me. Yeah, man. Just Europe was such a big. That was the big, like just the people I met and the merch. Like we sold out of everything like halfway through tour.
Holy shit!
And everyone just really liked the like style of music we were writing out there. It was very overwhelmingly positive. I remember it was like very bittersweet because it was the first time we were in Europe and we had such a crazy response. Like I remember in Austria we played for like 300 or 400 people and we had never been there before, and the whole place was jumping up and down. And I was like, wow, this is what it feels like. And I was like, but at the same time I knew this was the last tour I was going to do. So it was very bittersweet.
That's so like you think about shows from your youth, and you said you remember that Haverhill show, and you remember.
Yep.
So this is just another thing that's in your arsenal of good memories to just hold on to that you can share in the future with. If you have kids or anything like that, you can be like, Dad went to Europe and fucking killed it.
You want to hear a funny story? I did this to prove to my kids eventually in the future that I was a cool dad. Is I saved a T-shirt from every tour.
Brilliant, fucking brilliant.
So that way when my kid grew up, I could give them like 6 or 7 Aviator T-shirts for each tour. It was like each album. And it's like, yeah, you fucking had a cool dad. Don't forget it.
That's awesome. So like when you pick them up from school and the other guys are wearing those fucking dad shoes with the high-waisted jeans and you're not, you can be like,
yeah, right. My kid's gonna have Sambas and an Aviator shirt on.
Combat hat.
Yeah, and a Carhartt.
Fact. We got Cerulean 2 in chat who said Europe is just big supporters of rock and metal and hardcore, you know. I did notice that Europe is way bigger in the hardcore scene than America is.
Yeah, they go they treat rock over there like the way we treat like pop and rap over in the US.
Really?
Yeah, that was the best way. Like the way we treat like the way we idolize like American Idol and America's Got Talent and like all those like very mainstream like Grammy stuff. Over in Europe, it's still very much like heavy music and like guitar, drum, bass like influenced music. Like it didn't change over there.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then they said too. I remember that being a thing, like them telling us, like that's just an American thing that, like, hip hop and like pop music really took the mainstream
Hmm.
over, and like some in some country, but for the most part, over in Europe, it's like everything is still pretty popular, like in the rock world.
Well, that was like my friend Mike was telling me. He went to a Toronto Blue Jays game against the Red Sox, and he was
Nice.
talking about how Alexis on Fire was like the number one fucking band playing over the megaphone in the stadium, and not Britney
Yeah, shit
Spears
like that.
or fucking Lil Wayne. It was Alexis on Fire, which was extreme. He was like, dude, I was so thrown off. He's like, I know they're from here, but I didn't think that they were like the mainstream music that would be playing in an MLB park.
Right, right. It's like I feel like still Green. Like I feel like if you're not Green Day or the Foo Fighters in America, you're not on that level anymore.
Which is extremely sad.
Yeah, because I still love Green Day and Foo Fighters, but I just wish I wish there was more of them.
You and me both. Like, I the reason I started this podcast interview thing was it's always fun to break the ice having a drink, whether you're straight edge or not. Like, we can work something out. I just want to
Yeah,
sit and talk and learn about you. Like, how did you get in the scene? Because no one ever talks about, like, how the fuck did Nickelback come about? Where did you play? Like, who
right,
did you play with? You didn't play with the Bonus Army and the Carrier. Who did you play with?
right. Like, where did you come up?
Exactly. So, like, with you, it's really cool to know that Aviator was the main focus, was the hardcore area. Then you did Long Lost. Then you have Narrowcast, and you have Pretty Normal. So it's sort of like this thing of, like, it's very nice to see that some artists are not stuck to one genre. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's like with have you checked out Pretty Normal at all?
Yes, Pretty Normal's playing right now on the stream in the background on Twitch. So,
Oh,
which is
nice.
nice because the chat gets to hear it. And says Cerulean 2 says here in Europe we're very open to the genre, even if you're a small band or a huge popular band. So he's agreeing with you that the heavier side of things is the more norm, and it's also like pretty supportive over there. Whereas over here, I
Nice.
mean, unless it's trap or electronic right now, I think you're kind of up shit's creek without a paddle for mainstream. And then you get like sort of these breakthrough artists in the indie area that come out of nowhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And that's like pretty normal for me, dude, was just I hit up Quinn, who is the vocalist for
Mm-hmm.
Verse, and I just missed, like, after Aviator had been done for a couple of years, me and Aviv just missed writing some heavy tunes, and I had been just messing around and with my guitar
Mm-hmm.
again. So I was like, what if we just wrote like 5 songs I wish Aviator had always written, and then we got someone to do vocals like we had wished we had already always heard. And I reached out to Quinn. I was like, "Would you like to do vocals? But like, I want to go for more of like a '90s post-punk sound, and like Deftones, and like, like I just want to touch into that like nostalgia."
I get a
But I was like,
Deftones and Foo Fighters mixed theme from it. That's just me. Don't take my word for it,
"Yeah,
but that's what I feel
no, yeah,
listening to
that
it.
too." It was just, dude. It was just like I just wanted to write like the heavy songs I wished I could always write, and then I sent them all to Quinn, and then Kayla actually sings. She's the female vocalist
Okay.
on it. That's my wife.
Oh, is it really?
And yeah, so I have my wife do everything with me.
That's fucking so cool.
So she did the vocals. She's the female vocals on Pretty Normal, and if we ever played live, like I'd have her play second guitar.
That's pretty rad. My wife's really cool. She teaches me how to cook, so
Nice.
she's a really good
So
cook. So anytime I have a
nice,
question or
bro.
something like that, I
That's
just pick her
literally
brain.
the best hobby ever that a wife could have.
Exactly, and not just
Is
that. Like, you reap the
is
benefits of real food. You know what I mean? Like,
I know
she does like sourdough
exactly.
bread and stuff
Oh,
like that. So I'm always like, I get the
yeah,
healthiest shit
you're set,
possible
dude.
without having to go to the store.
You're set,
Yeah,
dude.
exactly. So, what are some small businesses that you support? I understand that you have a small business. You're treating Narrowcast like a small business. So, like, let's talk more about that. Let's plug that because I want you to be able to. I really want
Yeah,
small businesses to thrive, and all we have is Dave fucking Portnoy, and the guy is
Yeah.
awesome. He's killing it. He's really helping people, and I feel like more people can step up to the plate. So if this platform can help anybody, if it can help small businesses, artists, art, Etsy pages, as long as even OnlyFans pages, I don't give a fuck. As long as you're trying
Yeah, I
to
love
make
that.
money and be
I love
happy,
that
you know what I
you're
mean?
about that. Dude, honestly, that was one of my. I showed my wife that, and I was like, "That's such a good question." Just especially with the pandemic and
Mhm.
all, like just like everyone's just trying to help everyone out, you know. So I just feel like up in my neck of the woods. So I own a lawn care. So I've been I worked with my father for 15
Mhm.
years, and I helped him grow his landscaping business. And
Tough work.
I started.
Tough work.
Yeah, I started. Yeah, but I started my own lawn care business 5 years ago now, and I have two guys that work for me. They're great guys, Cody and Joe. Um, so I'm a three-man, band with my business now. So yeah, we're like that DIY True Green basically, but we do all high-end houses in the North Shore. So we're taking care of basically like all along the coast,
Nice.
and I do a lot of high-end homes that I take care of now. So yeah, and we're called out of all it's a local independent franchise I bought into, and it's called Weed Man Lawn Care,
Ooh.
and I love it because it's up here in Mass, it's all legal
Yep.
now, so like there's dispensaries on every corner of the street. So everyone dies about that, but yeah, it's called Weed Man Lawn Care, and I'm actually the business owner of that, and we have like 500 customers.
Holy shit.
So I've been running that, and I grew that truly, dude. I grew that on my own. I door knocked for 3 years, and I grew it from like 60 customers up to 500 in the last 5 years.
Dude, bravo to you. Seriously, like,
I
cheers to you, buddy. Because that's incredible. And 14% milk here in the chat. He said, dope, you're a business owner. Good for you, man. And he said, LOL, weed man. So.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Weed Man Lawn Care. So yeah, I that's what I do with my two guys, and I love it. And then there's a small business in Beverly called Half Baked, and the owner's name is Kelly, and she is the nicest woman in the world, and they are the best breakfast spot on the North Shore.
What's the town?
Beverly, Mass.
Beverly.
And it's called Half Baked, and she is the best breakfast food, coffee, anything like that. Oh my god, I can't even express. We go there every Sunday.
So, you know what's really funny is your state's legal for marijuana, and then Vermont's legal for marijuana, and I live in the state that says live free or die, and if you get caught with it, you fucking go to jail. Like, talk
Right.
about living in a goddamn hypocritical slogan state.
I know. It's like I thought New Hampshire would have been the first.
No shit.
With all the, you know. But yeah, it's funny. Like and I think just personally, I think it should have been a federal thing, because it's crazy that you can go over a state line and it's like the other extreme.
Yeah. And you know what's really funny?
So,
the people in the states where it's legal, they're all friendlier lately. Whereas you used to go to
Yeah.
Massachusetts and everyone's fucking grumpy because it's cold and you don't want to be there, and traffic and fucking
Right.
potholes. You know, moving from Massachusetts, I love Massachusetts. It holds a special place in my heart. But moving further north, like I literally couldn't live back in Massachusetts. I don't know how half of you do it, because the amount of stress I go through weekly at work, plus that added aggravation of traffic in Starrow Drive, I
Dude,
would
you guys-
fucking lose it.
It's weird how you guys live in this like weather line where like you guys automatically get like an extra 3 inches of
Yeah.
snow, no matter what. No matter what, you guys whatever the storm says, you guys get +3.
Oh yeah, dude. There's been so many times where like people were like, "Oh, you're not gonna have work tomorrow." Like at the brewery, there was a couple times where I couldn't go to work because right where I live snowed, and we got like 12 inches, but up by the brewery, which is 45 minutes north, got 0.
That's what I mean. So like, I know that struggle, dude, because that's what I do in the winter is I snowplow.
And that helps with the hiccup of being like, oh fuck, there's seasons in New England. You know what I mean? Imagine being a California landscaper. You're like, what the fuck are you talking about? There's seasons?
Right, exactly.
So, what are some? I know this is totally off topic, but I'm a big fan of binging movies and series. I don't know if you are. I know that you love music. Some people are like, nope, don't have time for that. But
yeah, I showed my wife this one too. The animated shows and series. Okay. So have you watched that new one, Invincible?
Oh, dude, I am a huge comic book nerd. I read that when it first came out. So when they announced it as an animated series, I watched it the day that it launched. What'd you think?
Yeah, that show was. I liked it. So I wasn't expecting it to be what it was. I think I was on the internet basically was like, yo, I gotta check this out. I thought that was sick.
So I feel like it's the Game of Thrones of animated shows.
Yeah, I feel like it's like they try to do The Boys an animated version.
Do you like The Boys?
Yeah, I love The Boys.
Probably one of the most underrated shows. You hear everybody talk about everything on Netflix, everything on Hulu, and then when it comes to Amazon Prime, they're like, dude, fuck off, Bezos.
The Boys is like Game of Thrones if Marvel did it.
Exactly. Okay, yeah, I can 100% agree with that there.
And then, what was the other one that I watched was really good? It had freaking Tony Montana on it. Was it The Brotherhood or it was all about the when they were hunting the Nazis in America.
Oh, really? What's that called?
Did you? It was let me look it up real quick. But it was a show with the who was it? Capone?
Who the Tom Hardy?
Who plays Tony Montana in
Al Pacino.
Scarface? Al Pacino.
I hope I got that.
He was in the show on Prime recently that they hunted Nazis in America in like modern day.
Ooh.
And it was so good, man. It's just because that whole thing with like The Boys with her being a Nazi.
Yeah.
That was it's just called Hunters. The show's called Hunters.
All right, I'll have to give that a shot.
Yeah, that show was really good. It was like a one season type show. That show was incredible.
So what was it? They hunt down.
They basically it's that conspiracy that like after World War II that the U.S. government gave like all the like brilliant minds that were working for the Nazis like jobs at NASA.
Oh, Operation Paperclip.
Yes. Yep, and it's basically like how our government was like covering up like the doctors in order to like gain their knowledge
on rocketry and medical and all that stuff.
Yeah, dude. And what it is this group of like Jewish people basically hunt them down.
That sounds like a show I would definitely watch.
And Al Pacino is basically the leader of the group.
So weird going from like Italian to a guy that was a Cuban drug lord to now he's the leader of a Jewish freedom rally.
He's like a rabbi that hunts Nazis.
That almost sounds like a Rick and Morty
what a
ad
range.
In one of their episodes. You know
right,
what I mean?
Dude. But
now
I was thinking, when go back to the animated stuff. Bro, I love that animated. I grew up with that animated Spider-Man, the '90s animated Spider-Man series.
So good. That and the Batman one where Mark Hamill's the Joker.
Yes. I grew up with those, so I instantly when I read that question, I thought of those, and then I grew up with Lion King and Aladdin.
Lion King
those
is
Disney classics.
Such a good movie, and Aladdin's so underrated.
Dude, we grew up with those. Those are classics too. Even Toy Story, like for new age animated, those are great. But yeah, like I've been digging recently though that Invincible show.
Oh, that's only gonna get better. I don't know if you read the comic book or anything like that, but like,
I
oh,
haven't yet.
dude, it gets to be the most. It's like I said, it's the Game of Thrones for animation because those spins and those twists and turns where George R. Martin was like, "Fuck your favorite character." You're gonna
Yeah,
get
that's why I
things that go
keep
along those
watching
lines. You
it.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
But any pets? Do you own any pets?
yeah. I have a dog. I have a dog. She's a Norwegian elk hound,
Oh wow,
and yeah, her name's we call her Nina Bear.
Nina Bear.
Yeah, and she's my fluff ball. She's laying down, I think, on the couch right now. But she comes to work with me every day. Literally, she's my partner. Like she's in the truck with me every day.
That's fucking awesome. So the bond
So
is ridiculous.
yeah, like I got her off leash. I walk her off leash, and she just follows me everywhere. She's like my little kid. You know what I mean?
Dude, it's so crazy how animals are a blessing and a curse, and the fact that like they make you feel all the feelings in the world, and then when something's wrong with them or they're starting to get
Oh
older,
my
you
god.
start losing your fucking shit because you're like, no,
Yeah,
no, 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 no. We need to clone you. We need a time machine. We need. So
exactly.
like, I have two pit bulls, and
Oh,
I have
nice.
Pearl and Bailey. I call Pearl and Bailey so many different names. We call Bailey Bubba most of the time because she looks like a baby seal, and then with
Nice.
Pearl, I call her Pickle, and our friend Chard the Bard, who's actually in chat, calls her Avril Pearline.
I love it.
So like we're big suckers for our dogs. Did you ever watch the Umbrella Academy? Someone in chat's asking.
Wait, what
Did you
was
ever
it?
watch the Umbrella Academy? Someone in chat was asking.
Yes, yes, I
How'd you
have.
like that? You thought? Did you think Gerard Way
I
could write a
was,
story
it
like
was
that?
all right. Like I, for some reason, didn't get sucked into it. The more I thought I was gonna get sucked into it more than I did.
You and me both.
I thought it started out strong, but then it kind of died for me. Like I just thought it just like when you watch that and then you watch The Boys, you're like, oh, I just want to watch The Boys.
Exactly. Exactly. And I felt like
So it was missing that wow factor, and I think that's because Netflix had to keep it like PG.
yeah. Yeah. And not to mention the fact that like it felt like overacting a lot of the time,
Yeah,
especially the guy that was like half gorilla.
I just feel like
He kept doing that
I
fucking
hate when
smoldering
shows
look
have
and
that.
looking at the
Like
camera.
they have such a cool like ground level for a story, but it's like, did you watch the Zack Snyder cut?
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, because if you want to talk about like a story that truly gets affected by the director, like that was the biggest like wow, like WB really screwed up and didn't let this guy do what he was supposed to
Think
do.
about all the movies that's happened with, for especially the comic book realm.
I know, but it's like, bro, that movie was 4 hours long and it was 10 times better.
Not to mention the fact all those deleted scenes with characters that we all grew up with or watched in animated, like John Johns, the Martian Manhunter, who was in it. Like,
Yes,
come
yes,
fucking on! Why wouldn't you show
yeah,
us the
no,
things we want to
and
see?
and oh, dude, just the cuts with Ben Affleck were so much better.
And I
Oh,
hated
sorry.
him. I hated him as Batman
I
until
know, but
the Snyder
he
cut.
actually, yeah, he actually did good as like a Batman in the Schneider cut.
So prior to the Schneider cut, I was like, he just seems like a pompous prick rich guy with like a hidden Boston accent.
Yeah, it felt like there was no depth. It felt like they were just following whatever the main comic points were.
Exactly.
Like there was nothing that separated him from the pact. And this movie, it's just, dude, it's just crazy that a director can do that.
Yeah, no kidding. It's like when people are like, "Oh, this is a Joss Whedon film. Oh, this is a Zack Snyder film." You know what I mean?
Dude, I feel that way about the sequel trilogy for the Star Wars movies. Like Oh my! You imagine if the guys that had the Mandalorian, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, had the sequel trilogy.
Dude, The Mandalorian is one of the best, and a lot of people are like, ugh, it's fucking boring, it's slow. No, 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 no,
No,
no.
I don't care.
No,
No.
tell me your input on it.
Just,
I want to hear it. I want to hear it.
I just think the Mandalorian's like the best Star Wars that's come out since like
The original series.
Revenge of the Sith.
I say,
Or Rogue One was really good too.
yeah,
but,
and not a lot of people liked it, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, you don't like offshoot stories that have nothing to do with.
no, Rogue One was like cinematically really well
Yeah.
done, I think, and it's just got underrated. I feel like, but Mandalorian was like combining both that like Rogue One like cinematic with like the hype of it all, but like I'm all of. I just didn't like the sequel trilogy.
I'm gonna agree 100% with you because when Carrie Fisher did that bullshit. Sorry, spoiler alert, everyone. Spoiler alert. When she did that bullshit come back to life force move where she got back into the ship when she was like,
Yeah.
what the fuck was that?
It's like you had all these, and then they try to redo damage control in the last movie with showing her doing that like training sesh with Luke.
Yeah.
But it's like the damage was already done. It's like you guys should have just started with that.
I feel like it's also like that like Jar Jar Binks. Like Jar Jar Binks fucked everything up. In
Yeah.
in the pre-sequel.
Oh yeah. Too much. It was like comic relief overload.
Exactly, and it just felt awkward. You know what I mean? Like I guess in one of the director's cut scenes, he dies when like they go over the waterfall or something. They should have done that. You know?
Right. That's where they killed it with Baby Yoda because he had the comic relief, but he was still like he had like an edge to him.
And then when they you find out his name's Grogu and not Yoda, you're like, oh, there's other green little guys.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they expand with like the Ahsoka series.
How excited are you for that? Because I've always pictured her as Ahsoka Tano.
Yeah, me too. I actually thought that was like one of the best episodes in that that season.
Did you nerd
Like,
out when it was the CGI Luke at the end? We're spoiling the shit out of this, so sorry, chat, if you haven't watched it.
I know,
it's been a
out,
whole pandemic. Fucking
like
get over it.
Months. But I love that whole samurai tribute they did.
Oh yeah,
and I just think so I'm actually a fan of the Clone Wars series because Dave Filoni really he knows the Star Wars lore of everything.
Matt, I'm liking you more and more the more you talk about all this stuff because I'm a huge Clone Wars
fan.
Yeah,
this is my pitch. So I'm actually a fan of the Clone Wars, and when he dug into all the Jedi mythology and everything, I was like, yes, finally. So when they gave him the Mandalorian, it made so much sense why it all worked out. It's like they finally gave this dude a live action series. It's just the first thing I thought when I saw the Mandalorian is wow, imagine if they gave this guy the sequel trilogy. It's like they were so hell bent on J.J. Abrams, but it's a total Zack Snyder effect. If they had given that movies to Dave Filoni, it probably would have been flawless.
Oh, yeah, we all would have gotten the story that we deserved, not the story that no one.
Yeah, it's just he understands the bigger picture of the lore better than the rest of them, and it's I think this is as I get older, I've been realizing that with directors, how important they actually mean to executing the story.
Oh, well, yeah, because you're not going to watch something and be overly extravagant about just the actors. You're going to look at who the producer and director were, and you're going to go, oh, it's Tim Burton. I know it's going to be some wacky-ass animation with this cool, grim, gothic story.
Right.
Or, you know what I mean? You're looking at things like the Wachowski brothers or,
Quentin
Tarantino. You could spot Quentin 900 miles away. You know?
And it's I love that stuff, but I guess when it came to the superhero genre, I didn't realize how that's a huge freaking part too.
The superhero genre, I feel, should stay in the hands of people that are in that realm. You know what I mean? Fantasy fiction, sci-fi. Not give it to someone like how we got Game of Thrones, like Cerulean said in the chat. Talk about actors killing a show and directors. You know, you got Game of Thrones the last 3 seasons. How bad was that last season of Game of Thrones? I am a huge George R.R. Martin fan, and that I read those books when I was in college for going to school for what I do currently. I'm in the medical field, but like I read those books on the train every day, and I'm still waiting for the next book. And then they came out with this show, and then I'm like, this isn't how I thought it would end.
No, and everyone. So in my group of friends, everyone said that the reason it ended so bad is because he didn't finish the books.
I think that, and also the guys that were directing at the time got offered Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, and then it didn't even work out. It didn't even work out. They got canned from it.
Yeah, because they seen the crap that they came up with for Game of Thrones. They were like rushing to the ending.
It shows that to me shows how much money can like ruin a fucking art project.
Dude, money always ruins most art projects because then it's not art anymore. It's fucking what's the bang I can get for my buck.
That's why, like, yeah, dude, I've always said this, like, because he didn't finish, like, the reason those first, like, 5 seasons, 6 seasons are so good in Game of Thrones is because he wrote the books.
Exactly.
And when they decided to finish the show before he could finish the books, that's when it was like, okay, now this is a cash cow, and we have to figure out an ending. And the bittersweet for me, dude, is, like, I thought the ending, the last season, felt rushed.
Oh, so rushed.
So rushed. It felt so rushed, but I loved the plot twist of her burning down all of King's Landing.
I 100% agree.
I know a lot of people are like controversial on that and feel that, but I actually loved that she turned into her father and like just killed everybody.
For me, it was one of those things where I had the strongest feeling possible she was going to do that, but like,
did you think that?
I did. I really thought she was going to go, because it's one of those things. She had that Mother Teresa effect for like 3 fucking seasons.
Rooted for her the whole show.
Right. But then she started to turn a little once she got the Unsullied. She was like, I got guys that are trying to scam on me, so I'm going to fucking...
So you think she turned more when she got the Unsullied?
Yeah, that's how I felt.
Oh, when she started killing all the slave masters?
Exactly, and then she got that bloodlust of like, oh, okay, no one's going to challenge me. I have 3 dragons and a whole militia.
I thought she changed when she got to King's Landing and burned the Tully family alive. Or it was like that.
Okay, I can agree with that too.
The guy that had to get married at the Red Wedding, it was his family. When she burned those dudes alive, I was like, all right, this is like some shit her dad would have done.
Oh, yeah. And then I feel like it stems from like her dead husband too, when he poured the fucking gold on her brother.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was so... that was... Dude, like, that was the most satisfying death, and then Joffrey was the most satisfying death on TV.
I don't think anyone's ever gotten more excited for a character to be killed off than Joffrey Baratheon, especially in the fact that he fucking quit acting after that.
Well, I was gonna say, like, dude, you know you're good at your job when you literally get bullied out of a school for an act you played. Like, the kid, I heard the kid got, like, the whole, like, 9 yards. Like, he got bullied out of school, and, like, he just decided to, like, quit the whole thing. And it's like, that's how you know you killed your job. Like, when you're hated in public that much for somebody you played.
You know who it reminds me of? There's only been one other character in cinema that I can recall off the top of my head that's driven me fucking up a wall. And it's Professor Umbridge from Harry Potter. Do you remember the woman in, like, the pink outfit that punishes the students? She has, like, cat plates.
She was like OG Karen.
Yeah, she's the original fucking... She's the magic Karen.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She's like the OG Karen. She's before we had the word Karen.
Exactly. So, like, when I see her, even if her IMDb comes up, I actually get angry because I'm like, this bitch played such a good part that I'm angry at her for just looking at her. Like, you killed your job.
Right.
You did what you were supposed to do.
That's Joffrey. That's Joffrey for me. I'm like, just looking at that kid's face just makes me
That
angry.
poor bastard, and he's so young. He's so young. Imagine being good at your job that you fuck it up.
And know what the craziest part? It's like it's not even like it's like a real life depiction. It's like it's all fantasy world stuff too.
But at the same time, think about it. Like, people were pieces of shit in the medieval times.
I
They
know,
smelled like
it's
shit. They
like,
acted like pieces of shit. Like,
that's why I love that show, because I felt like that was the closest to that time period that was actually like all the brothels and stuff. I was like, this is probably how it actually was.
oh, dude, they literally were like trying to make money and ends meet by any means possible back then. And then like just like the royal family today, you just hide shit when you're a higher up. You know what I mean? So like, I don't even fucking care if I get canceled for that. But like, it's like as soon as you get to a certain point in wealth and fame, you start doing shit like that. Where you're like,
yeah, you get like semi corrupted.
Yeah. Like look at Khaleesi. You know what I mean? She started to take over the Western world, and then she was going to come over here and do that, and she wanted to be this good person, and then it was like...
I just remember seeing Jon Snow's face when she just started lighting up the whole town, and he was like, oh, shit.
He had the same face we did
lost her mind.
when we were teenagers, or even our first time going drinking at a bar, and you met this girl that was interested in you, and then you're like, oh, she's fucking crazy. She's crazy,
yeah, that's like
I didn't see this coming.
My son is my king energy.
Yeah. It reminds me of Wedding Crashers, like, don't ever leave me, I'll find you.
Yes, like, yeah, like, yeah.
So,
exactly.
It's one of those things where, like, you can definitely relate in certain series and certain shows, but with, like, Game of Thrones, unless you are someone who, like, has a lot of deep-seated problems, you don't relate to anything in it.
Exactly. Oh man, I'm so happy you liked all this same stuff. I binged all it, and then the last thing I really binged, dude, was the me and my wife love The Sopranos.
So I haven't started that from the beginning. I remember being a kid and my parents being fucking obsessed. And like how we can today quote like a Rick and Morty line or something like that. Our parents like quoted Sopranos lines.
Dude, it's the best mob television all time.
Really? I mean, people put it up on this crazy pedestal, and I'm one of those people that gets really upset when something like... I think I always overdo my expectations.
I agree, because I was that way for, like, the last... Jesus, since it came out. But, like, dude, I've watched this show all the way through, like, 3 times during the pandemic. And it's like, it's one of those shows you can just always put on. And it's so good. And it's just so weird because you would never think it would be about like a mobster show. No. But it's just like, it's like The Office.
Okay. Funny story.
Like,
I hated the fucking Office till I met my wife.
Right? Same. Literally same. Yeah.
I get shit for that so often.
I thought it was so dry, and then she made me keep watching it, and then all of a sudden I thought it was funny.
You and me both, because I was like, okay, Michael's a fucking moron, so we can just...
I love him now.
You and me both. So at the beginning, he was cringy for me. Extremely cringy. Yep. And then all of a sudden I just started to watch with my wife in the background or just sit and watch. And I'd be like, oh man, I like everything about this. I love Dwight. I love Michael. You know, and also the plot lines, how everything was different. Like the rabies road race where he fucking ODs on Alfredo and vomits everywhere. Like
fire drill.
You know?
Oh, I love the fire drill episode when Dwight just like lights everything on fire and makes everyone freaking
Is that when he heats
find
the
their way
doorknobs too? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that up. And then like when she throws the cat up on the ceiling, she's like, "Save my cat!" And Oh my god, dude! Like, so to me, The Soprano, like, so that's how I felt. I'm the same way as you. Like, I didn't like it, and then it grew on me, and then it's one of those shows like when you're getting ready for work in the morning, you can just throw it on.
Oh yeah. So
So
my wife can
that's The
watch it
Sopranos
religiously
for
over and
me.
over again. I can watch it with it in the background, but she can sit there and just fucking hone in.
Same. That's my wife. Oh God, we married the same woman.
Exactly.
Um,
See?
like, so I'm the same. Like, I can put it on while I'm making coffee and getting ready
Hmm.
for work, but my wife can sit there and just like she'll like focus and watch it.
Do you like the show
But
Archer? Have you ever watched that?
I tried to get into it. It was harder for me to get into because I like James Bond so much.
So you felt it was like a slight against James Bond?
Yeah, I was like, hey, you guys think this is James Bond's a loser? I was like, I understand, but that's when. But when the time Archer came out, that's when I got into Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Oh, that show was literally the pinnacle of my childhood.
Yeah, bro, the whole coming home from high school, like school, and getting snacks, and then putting on G4
Yup.
and watching like those shows on G4, like Robot Chicken, um, Metalocalypse. I've been watching a lot.
Dude, Metalocalypse is so underrated, it's not even funny. Especially with the
Dude,
elderly people in the
Mark
Coffee
Hamill.
and Cream
Mark Hamill's
episode.
in it. Yeah. Oh, dude, and then the fact that the like same band wrote all those songs. They just wrote all these metal records.
Oh, dude, Alexi Leo from Children of Bodom played on a fucking shitload of those songs.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I love that.
Have you ever watched Parks and Rec and Arrested Development?
Oh, I love that show too, dude.
Parks or Arrested?
Oh, Parks.
I am definitely a fan of Parks. Arrested Development I haven't gotten into, and 30 Rock I haven't gotten into.
You saying 30
Yeah,
Rock?
I haven't gotten into that.
Yeah. So my wife likes 30
Mine
Rock, and I haven't gotten into it yet because I actually do you like SNL?
I like old SNL. I can't watch new SNL.
You don't like the new SNL?
Nah, I've tried a bunch of times, but I think it's because I try to stay out of politics and shit. Like, and a lot of it's always politically.
It's so saturated
Yeah.
now.
So like, if I want to watch something, lately it's dick and fart jokes, so this way I don't have to fucking think about anything. You know what I mean?
Oh God, we're the same. I love it, dude. I feel the same. Like, yeah, I don't try and get, but the last couple episodes have been pretty funny. But yeah, my wife gets more into like Arrested Development and those type of things. Like 30 Rock, she's been watching a lot of.
Crumb to Mama in the chat just said, "What's your wife's phone number?"
Yeah,
Someone's
right.
also a same fan of everything. That's actually my wife is Crumb to Mama, so that's actually pretty funny. She said, "What's your wife's phone number?"
Right.
It's one of those things though, like you grow up watching, like, let's say The Simpsons, or you grew up watching Family Guy or something like that, but like
Yeah.
SNL always sticks with the times, I feel like, as of the past decade. So I feel it went like less from sketch comedy to what's going on in the world. I miss sketch comedy like Dave Chappelle. Like, I think that's still one of the greatest shows of
I
all
think
time.
everybody. I've been rewatching the old shows because they've been on HBO.
HBO Max is phenomenal.
Yeah, so I've been going through it, and yeah, dude, that was some of the best. Like, just all we still put it on. We still laugh out loud on TV after all these years.
Isn't that crazy? Nothing does that for us now. Like, if something new comes out, we are the biggest fucking critics because they show you everything good in the trailer.
Everything's instant gratification today.
Yeah. They show us everything good in the trailer.
So people criticize stuff as fast as it comes out. People are willing to criticize it,
and then we binge it, and then it's over, and then we're ready for the next thing, and it doesn't come out for a couple months.
Yeah, I feel like that's like with music too now, dude. Like, that's like maybe because I've been doing more music with Joe, but like this was like the first thing that I put out, and it's like it got reviewed a lot, and it's like you can just tell everybody's just home waiting to do something because everybody's nitpicking everything. You know what I mean?
And you know what? That's a good thing and a bad thing. Because people are stuck at home, so they're frustrated. So they might overhype their expectations, which is okay. Because then at the end of the day, it's still a great and phenomenal piece of art and work. And then they'll come down from it and they'll go, okay, I approach this in the wrong sense because all I'm getting is digital now. But now that we're starting to open up the country and everyone's getting vaccinated, which is really nice, now we can go towards that. There's a light at the end of the fucking tunnel. There's going to be shows soon. There's going to be people singing along. We don't have to do a Zoom/Skype meeting soon. We can meet in person. Like, everyone is starting to get this dopamine and serotonin that they deserve. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, mental health is so fucking important, and not enough people talk about it. And now you're hearing podcasts getting sponsored by these online therapists and things like that. And this is what we need more of. This needs to be more of the conversation, because music isn't just music or art. It's also some people's outlet. Okay? Their outlet doesn't need to be drugs or alcohol or this or that. Their outlet is going to a show with like-minded people, people that they know, or they meet new people, or they connect with them in a group on Facebook or social media. But those people are what gets them through at the end of the day. And right now we're starting to see we're heading towards that light at the end of the tunnel where everyone can get together again and enjoy themselves.
Exactly. That's why, like, even though me and Joe live so far away, like, I would love to, if Audio Tree offers us something, I would love to put the band together to do something,
Dude, so this is a question I've asked every interview at the end of the interview. So we're coming to the end of the interview. I want to ask, because this is important to me. If I were to get a festival together in the state of New Hampshire, would Narrowcast be interested in being a part of that? And it's not to put you on the spot.
It's just, it means...
It's to get you in line. If we have something, we can reach out to you and say to you, we're doing this beer and music festival. We'd love for you to come out.
So, I would love to. It comes down to Joe, because Joe's in North Carolina.
Oh, dude, we can work around the out-of-state people. Because coming up on the interview session, I don't know if you've looked on the Instagram, but besides North Shore and New England mans, I'm actually interviewing Fit for a King, who's from Texas, so they're going to be getting the same question. Funeral for a Friend is on April 17th. I am going to fucking really hope to not fangirl during the whole time, because I grew up with them when I was in high school.
So when do you want to do the festival?
I am aiming for the end of summer before fall, so that this way we have enough buffer time.
And this is, don't hate me, but Joe's about to have a child in October.
Of course. So how about this? We keep everything on the table. We don't have a date. But if in the future it fit into your schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, what it is, one of those things where you just email me the stuff and I'll pass it on. And if it works out with the group of us and we can all get together and do it, we would.
Fuck yeah, that's what I like to hear. So,
and I think I don't know if you mind me saying this, but like just in terms of releasing stuff. So on April 16th we have another single coming out, and after that we plan on releasing something pretty much every month going forward. The big thing, though, is in June, I plan on releasing an EP that we had been working on for a long time. Ooh. And it's going to consist of 3 songs that, I feel like I've put everything I've ever worked on in music in general into. And those songs I've worked on for the last, 3 years with Joe. And I know it seems silly for 3 years for 3 songs, but...
No.
Yeah, it's just like I wrote 20 plus songs for these 3, and these are the ones that felt special out of all the 20 that I wrote, And what happened was Joe took these 3 songs and went to Adam, the singer of Taking Back Sunday.
Adam Lazzara.
And yeah, Adam recorded Joe's vocals and produced Joe's vocals for these 3 songs.
Holy shit.
So, and the same with this new single that's coming out. John Nolan helped us with it, and his wife is actually singing on it.
Oh, I am so excited to hear that then.
Yeah, so John Nolan helped us out with this new song, and his wife is singing on it. And then the EP that's going to come out after this single, Adam produced and tracked all of Joe's vocals in his own house.
Really? Did he take everything to him?
No, Joe literally went to Adam's house and recorded this EP with, and what it is I had all the instrumentals done up in Boston, up here, and I gave them to Adam, and Adam produced and broke down all the songs with Joe vocally.
That's absolutely incredible. So, what was that like working with a band who, on a major scale, you can say that name fucking anywhere? You know?
Yeah, it was very humbling. These guys all treated me like we all treated it like a work environment. Like, you know, all of a sudden Joe's texting me Adam's phone number and stuff, and we're texting back and forth, and we're figuring out how to retract Joe's vocals, and it was just humbling. Like, he took Joe's, you know, melodies and brought them to another level, and we layered all these crazy harmonies, and I gave them a direction I wanted to go in with these songs, and I asked them to record Joe's vocals in a specific manner, and Adam just, you know, took it and went with it, and they were so cool about it. And John, I've been talking with John more often now, and John Nolan is just he's a very kind guy, and he likes music just like all of us. So it's just, when everybody likes music this much, it's easy to work with each other like a team.
And at the end of the day, as famous as they get, they're still human beings at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's like John's got two kids, and he's got his life, and at the end of the day, it's like we're all just trying to make a cool painting, but it's got sonics attached to it. And it's like, it's almost like showing this buddy your painting. It's like, hey, like, what do you think about it? And they'll just throw their 2 cents in, and they'll like guide you from there. And Adam and John have kind of been like our coaches. I treat them as our business consultants, I call them. And they just been like our mentors the whole time throughout this project.
I feel like you got really good business consultants, and it's not some guy named fucking Chad at a used sales car lot. You know?
Yeah. Oh, no, like Adam and John have been so helpful, and they've done everything with their free time. So it's just so nice of them. You know what I mean? Because I know they got schedules, and they got lives, and they got kids. So for them to do this for me and Joe meant a lot.
And you know what? I always like hearing that the people I listen to in music are also good people outside of their public profile.
Yeah, doesn't that change like that? God, dude, I'm so the same. Like, when I find out people that influence me are good people too, it just makes things so much easier.
It reaffirms your decision, and then when you find out they're a shitbag, you're like, burn it all down. I'm done.
Yeah, it's just like it's just been so nice. Like, it was just like Joe just went to Adam's house a bunch of times because I had planned to go down and record Joe myself, but I got the flu, so I had to cancel my flight.
Oof.
And Adam just hit me up, and he was like, "Dude, I'll help out." And I was like, "Well, I think you got the experience too to like help him really take these vocals to another level." So I was like, "I think you'd make these even better than I could." And he was like, I'll do my best. And I was like, and it's just funny because, you know, it's Adam. So
I'll do my best.
Yeah, it's like he's just like talking to a buddy, you know?
Yeah, that's like looking at Gordon Ramsay, and he's like, I'll do my best on your meal.
Yeah, and Joe did that. We have one song in this new EP that Joe's got like 6 or 7 harmonies going. It's like the the end of Feeling This by
Yes.
Blink. Yeah, it's like we have a song that's kind of like on that vibe
That's rad.
at the ending, and it's like I got like 6 or 7 different layers of Joe going at the same time, and Adam created all the melodies.
Really?
And yeah, and then the coolest part, dude, is Aviv had the Real Connect, and we got this guy out in LA to mix in. Um, so we got this guy to mix it out in LA. He's like been in the game for a long time. He's like in his 60s, and he's done like Fleetwood Mac and U2 and Bowie and he did the Spinal Tap movie,
Holy shit.
and he's mixed all of these bands from like the era that we all like grew up on, like real big acts, and he mixed this EP, and it sounds like because he's from that era, it sounds like a nostalgic tone to it. It sounds like from the Phil Collins era of music,
That's pretty rad.
and then we had the people that did the National mastered it.
Really?
Yeah, so we had the people out in Brooklyn, it's Sterling Sound. They've done like Interpol and the National, and like
As funny as it sounds, I know that name from Interpol because Interpol is one of my favorite bands.
yeah. So we had them master it. So it's like we had the guy that did like Stevie Nicks and U2 and David Bowie mix it, and then we had the people that did the National master it.
Jesus Christ, it's like having Rick Ross do your hip hop album.
Yeah, it's just like I'm very, very, very excited to release this EP. I'm trying to do a 7-inch, so it's a 3-song EP, but it's like I spent about 3 years on these songs.
So you are going to get vinyl printed.
Yeah, I want to do vinyl for the EP.
I'm definitely fucking buying one of those.
Yeah, it's so cool too because we had the guy that did the artwork for Taking Back Sunday did the artwork for us.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, I am so excited to hear this EP when it comes out. Is there
Yeah,
anything
and then
else you want to really plug?
Well, the only thing I'm trying to plug is we'll have a single coming out April 16th, and then we're doing some covers. So I have some acoustic covers of like classic hardcore bands that we're doing like indie versions of.
Okay, and you said August 16th?
Yeah, August 16th will be the new single. Then the month afterwards, I'll probably release one of our covers, and then June, I would like to release, do a pre-order up in May into June for the EP, and then I'd like to release the EP in the summer. So after we release the EP in the summer, I got some more songs on deck, and the whole plan is to do a deluxe LP by the end of the year, where it's like all the songs of our catalog in one album, and that's one LP.
Dude, I am so fucking excited for this collection of music, and I like how passionate and structured you are right now, because to me that means you're just as excited as like me, who's a fan of what you're making right now. So it's nice to connect on that level.
It's just like I feel like I'm finally making the music that I want to, like, I make. Like when I was a kid, you listen to all these big bands, and as a kid you're like, I can't duplicate these, the Police and Phil Collins and all these greats.
Mm-hmm.
But then what happens is you go to a hardcore show at Anchors Up, and you see a band like Have Heart,
Mm-hmm.
and Have Heart has the pull they have, and you're like seeing them like 3 feet away playing the same songs. You're like, that inspires you to think like, I can start somewhere. And then what happened for me, it was like, eventually over time, going from hardcore, it's like you build up this confidence in writing songs that you feel like you can jump into that genre of those bigger rock bands finally.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I kind of approached it. I just felt like this is the time that I could jump to writing these bigger rock songs that I had always dreamed of writing, and I have the experience now to like produce a quality that I feel like that's confident.
I'm really excited for you, Matt. I'm really excited for Joe. I'm excited for this EP to come out. So everybody that's listening, everyone that's going to watch this, please pay attention, because a new single is coming out August 16th by Narrowcast. September will be a cover release, and then your pre-order is going to be May to June. So if you're looking to get in on this, make sure. Yeah, see, Chard the Bard. We do be buying though, so we got people in
Yeah,
chat that
I'm
want
gonna
to
reach
know
out.
what's coming out and when, so that this way we're planning for this stuff. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
if
I'll keep everybody in the loop too. Like as soon as I can announce stuff, I will.
definitely, so you heard it here. As soon as Matt can announce stuff, he will. So make sure you follow Narrowcast Band over on Instagram, over on Bandcamp. And anything else you want to say, Matt, before we go?
That's it, man. It's been an honor talking to you. I really enjoyed it.
Dude, it's been really a pleasure talking to you, and I really appreciate you giving me the time. I know it's a little weird to ask for people's addresses and stuff like that, and like all that shit. So, cheers to you. Enjoy the rest of the beer, and I along with the rest of the chat, we really look forward to what you're going to come out with in the next couple months.
It's been great, man. I appreciate it. Keep in touch with me, all right?
Definitely, dude, and you have a great night.
All right, you too, man. Have a
You
good
too,
one.
bud.
Bye.